to speak here for like 6 weeks. I don't know what I'm gonna say. I have a PowerPoint, we'll see what happens. Listening to all your stories today, it's really interesting to think about who we say we are and what we leave out. And this is, I think about this often, the stories that we tell define us. The way we present ourselves to other people, and just as much the stories we tell ourselves about who we are. And so the choices that we make in every moment. So what am I supposed to tell you of all the things that I could say, all the things that I've experienced, the moments that have added up to this moment? This moment's going to become part of the next story that I tell about who I am. So I can tell you anything. And if I could tell you anything today, without defining who I am, there's only 2 things that I want to tell you. And they link to everything that's already been said. And they link like stars in a constellation. We're each just a tiny little dot. And you're going to connect them and draw your own picture. And you're going to see yourself in that picture. And so in this moment, the 2 things that I want to talk about are, the 2 things that are the most important to me right now are my babies and the most important relationship I have in my life. And that's not what I prepared to talk about. And the slides may or may not actually jive and flow. We'll just see what happens, because some of the best stories are made up. I have one human baby and a lot of other babies. And so the first story I want to tell you about is some of the things that I learned from becoming a parent. And this picture is that, like, I think, for me, it's the happy thing. It's the beautiful thing. But this isn't the part that I want to tell you about. I want to tell you about standing on the side of the road, 9 months pregnant, in a foreign country, thinking, I don't think I really want to be a parent. I'm not sure I want to give birth. I had just spent a month training to be a doula, and I'd learned much more than anyone really should ever know about pregnancy and birth. And I walked out of this training 3 hours before it was finished. I said, I'm sorry, I cannot learn anything else about this right now. You have just proven to me that I'm not gonna do this. And it wasn't that organized, it was more like, that. I don't have a picture of that. Because I don't take pictures of myself when my shit's falling apart. This reminds me of that. And it was the beginning of a lot of learning. Marianne Williamson has this quote. She says that a miracle is just a shift in perception. And I've had a lot of shifts and a lot of miracles. So 2 weeks after, I can't do this, I don't want to. I had a baby, and it was amazing. My birth was amazing. My baby's great. I like being a parent. I like my small human. She seriously is the greatest teacher I've ever had. And I love her, and I struggle because she's the greatest teacher I've ever had. And one of the things she's taught me is the first story I want to share with you, and it's about creation. Every single one of us is creating something. Living is creating. But I'm hearing about you bringing your dreams and your passions into reality. And the creative process for me is pretty simple. Get an idea. Oh, it feels so good. Oh gosh, I can just like sort it all out. It's great, it's easy, because it's metaphysical, because it's an idea. And it's gonna be great, and I know what it's gonna be like at the end. And yeah, like I get that I'm supposed to do some work in the middle, and maybe my idea is a book, or a baby, or a dream home, or a business. I know that I have to work for it, and then it'll be great. There's always this creative crisis. Anytime you give yourself up to a dream, and this is part of the story, I don't have room in my story for shit getting hard, and for it like not, I'm working and now it's supposed to be great. And so I always find myself in this, collapse. And until that moment on the side of the road, pregnant, I have been able to get myself out of that collapse. I'm like, no, I don't have to finish this. No, I don't like this dream that much. This is really uncomfortable, so I'm out. I couldn't get out of that pregnancy. I was pretty in. 9 months in, no. And so that was the first thing she taught me, right? I'm no longer the boss. I'm no longer in control. But the next thing that she taught me is that if you stick with it, things get interesting. And so it's the beginning of me learning, like some of you have already said, like you like your obstacles. I used to be like, no, discomfort, breakdown, don't do it, avoid it, flee. My second approach was, I don't like this, but I'm sure I can, if I think hard enough, if I plan hard enough, I can get around it. My new thing, so this is actually not an old story. 3 weeks ago, I was trying to finish my first book. I wanted to write a book for ages. This one was fun, it was easy, it just came out. And then I woke up one morning and I was like, this is terrible. No one's gonna read it, I don't even like it, what the hell am I trying to say? It sucks, it's due in 3 days. I don't think I wanna be a writer. Right, not just like, not this, it was just like, no, none of this. And then, because this has been a repeating pattern for me, I was like, oh, wait a minute, it's not a breakdown, it's a breakdown through. I work with people a lot, and we all want the aha. Like, raise your hand, tell me you don't want the, I figured it out, it feels so great, right? I want to break through. And I've never had a breakthrough without at least visiting, if not spending way too much time, in breakdown. Mm-hmm. And so my breakdown throughs are now like, the more that I think about it, I'm planting a little seed. Next time you're in your creative crisis, you're like, I mean, it's falling apart, I don't actually want this dream. Like, oh, congratulations. You have arrived at the place that's just before your destination. That's right. It is like, how many people have had a baby? Physical birth? Yes. So here's one of the things I learned as a doula, and I got to witness a friend of mine have a baby. 7.5 hours of labor, you're in it, you're totally, every single woman gets to that point, she's like, nope, can't do it. Nope, done. And I always say, congratulations, that's fantastic. Because that's the moment you're there. When it falls apart and you're done and you can't do it, you have arrived. And so the breakdown through, I forget it, like when I'm in it, forget it. But the more that I practice it, the amount of time I spend in the breakdown is just getting smaller. I am never going to tell you to avoid the breakdown, or that I have 5 strategies to get you out of the breakdown, because I don't want you to get out of the breakdown, I want you to get into the breakdown. Because that's where the next step gets interesting. I don't like it. I'm not telling you that I like it. It's still totally crap. But it means you've gotten there. It means you've risked and you've taken a moment to believe in something, and you've put yourself out there. Because the only thing that matters, the most important thing that matters before we die, because we will, is that we dream and we live and we risk. And I spent way too long avoiding the discomfort of that living. My daughter also taught me, she was this big, so she didn't know she was teaching me, but she taught me that I needed community. And shortly after giving birth, I realized that I wanted a space with other women. I'd lived my whole life worshiping my grandfather, my father, and what the world tells me is like, I should be a dude. That's why I was practicing dudeism. And I was like, yeah, women are fine, but, to be successful in the world, I need to be like him. And so I had kept my relationships with women at a distance, and I was skeptical. And so ironically, a little bit, I formed a women's circle because I knew I needed a space that wasn't just girls talking about boys and whatever else girls talk about on this really superficial level. I was like, I really need this space, this deep, intimate space with other women. And we used to have it. Every month women used to get together and bleed together and share stories together, listen to one another. And not listen to like, oh, me too, I can solve your problem, let me fix you so that I don't have to fix me. Like, listen to one another. I avoided my own discomfort so much that I couldn't handle anyone else's discomfort. So I wasn't really supporting anyone, and I wasn't really letting any woman solve her own problems just by letting her go through it. Until I made this connection. And I want to tell you that the most important relationship in my life is the relationship I have in these women's circles. It's not true. Those relationships are amazing. And if you don't have a group of women that you can stand with, that you can sit with, that you can cry with, that you can show your total mess to, not just the pretty pictures, but the mess. Invite them in, find them, join a space, make a space, because every woman needs this space. The most important relationship I ever had, and will ever have, is not with these women, but it's cultivated in this space, in the presence of other women. The most important relationship I've ever had is the relationship I have with myself. And it's in the presence of other women that I get to know me. And I'm no longer just a wife, a mother. I'm not actually a wife at all. But I'm not all the other things that I am to other people, right? I'm not just my roles. I figure out who I am. But I can't do that by myself. I need to do that in the presence of other people. So I've written a couple of books. One of them's called Date Yourself, because if you want to be the most important person in your life, you gotta actually get cozy in there and treat yourself the way that you, I'm always looking for someone else to be that person for me. Why can't you figure out what I want and then give it to me? I can figure out what I want and give it to me. And then you can like me or not, because I dig me. And the other thing that I'm working on is creating spaces for women and working on a book to do the same thing. Because there's nothing like the bonds that we can have when we can be completely ourselves. The messes, glorious, disastrous, flawed pile of human that we are. And be like, oh, wait a minute, I'm not the only one who's not what Instagram tells me I am. Oh my God, thank goodness. Feels better. We can rely on one another, and together we are so much more than we are in our pieces. And so I invite you to fall in love with yourself. And I invite you to create a space for yourself and for the women that you know. So that every woman can live and grow up in a world where she counts, where she matters, where she likes herself, where she doesn't put up with shit. Because my daughter and your daughters and our sisters and our strangers and our neighbors and our friends and the women that we will never meet deserve it. Thank you.